Good evening, ma'am. Okay, so
Good evening. I just put my, video on.
right.
Yeah,
So,
sorry, the audio on.
welcome, dear participants, to this EFDP program, which is organized by Geeta Rathan International Business School. Today's topic is how to do or how to deal with group discussion in virtual environment. And to deal with this topic, we have with us Dr. Runa Maitra. Welcome to you, ma'am. She's a founder, director of People Talent International and corporate education evangelist. She has 2 decades, more than 2 decades plus HR and OD experiences in fintech, IT, and ITS, professional services, manufacturing, and retail sectors in India, in US and UK as well. The purpose of her current business venture is for the cause of livelihood of financially challenged in second innings career and enable first generation entrepreneurs. Ma'am is currently associated with SHRM as advisor leads, forums and engagement of HR leaders in multiple platforms. Ma'am has been awarded as 101 Women Social Media Influencer in the year 2015 and 16. She had been awarded as Top 100 Innovation HR Leader by World HRD Congress in 2017 and 18, and Top 30 Influencer in 2018 by SHRM India. She had been awarded Top 50 HR Influencer in 2019 by SHRM APAC and MENA. She has recently received official SHRM Influencer 2020 award. She is a multi-talented personality and founder director of People Talent. I have already told you, and she has partnered with multiple entrepreneurs as business partner. And prior to her business role, she has worked as a country director of HR with Clifford Chance Center of HR of Convergys, head HR in Dalmia Group, TechBooks, Escorts Finance Limited. She has been associated with various colleges in advisory position as also a freelance lecturer on HR analytics, HRM, IR, SHRM, compensation management, and various other. She is a renowned keynote speaker in both corporate and academia and conducted various behavioral trainings for multiple industries. She has been associated also with various startups as mentor and academia as business consultant. So with the evolution of CSR in India has inspired her to lead NGO SDA on education skilling associated with Pure India Trust on Girl Child Education. She is also a founder of NGO WOS, which is Women of Substance India, which supports women entrepreneurship and recognizes change makers. As jury member of Ashoka Foundation, she has selected various social entrepreneurs for nationwide youth venture program. Uh, she is also a fellow PhD program from Academy of HRD Ahmedabad, trained in Kaizen, Prince 2, NLP, Thomas profiling, and various other corporate training profiles. Ma'am, with your permission, I have kept your profile very brief. I hope we have got many more pages to read for. But most welcome to you, ma'am, and it is really gracious of you of accepting our invite and delivering like and specifically enlightening our faculty or peer group. So welcome, ma'am. It's now over to you.
Thank you so much. I think that was long enough. I was also thinking that, LinkedIn sometime gives a lot many inputs to us. So thank you, Sheetal ma'am. So good evening, everyone. On this format, I can see your names, and a lot of you have wished us good evening. So thank you for that. And I would also take the opportunity to thank Chairman Sir, Dr. Hoti. Um, our director, sir, Dr. Anu Ghosh, for organizing this FDP, and Dr. Sheetal for supporting us through and through. So we will do our best today evening to learn certain, basics around blended learning, virtual learning. So I understand because of our current challenging scenario, we are moving to a direction which has necessitated that we should be now considering virtual environment. I'm sure this is not new. In fact, many of us use a terminology the new normal, but we can always say that by the time we are talking today and having a chat through our chat sessions, I guess the new term is now almost shedding off. That is fading from our system, and this is becoming normalcy. And definitely what we say, necessity is mother of change. So what we are doing, if we have moved from on ground scenario to online, and many of us are definitely have started visiting our office premise or college premise, because I think I understand most of you are faculties, and you are already interacting with your students in a particular maybe blended environment. But I think the biggest change happened because of the new scenario, which is now of course we are pretty much engaged with that. But I think there are certain basic areas which we probably have learned together, we are going to explore today evening during the session. So I'm going to make it a little interactive, if that is okay with you. So first of all, I have a simple questions for you: that how many of you are using online teaching? So if you are using it, just write +1 on the chat. And if you're not, then use -1. Sheetal ma'am, can I see that
Yeah. Uh,
if they write something?
yes, ma'am. If you click on the chart, the things will be visible. Dear participants, like ma'am has already told you, +1, and ma'am, you can see that +1 has
Yeah,
started to come.
lovely.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So Yashashvi has written, yes, ma'am. And others are following my request. -1, Jayant, you haven't used online. Dr. Usha is not, Medha has not used online. -1 would mean that you are not using anything online. Now, when I'm saying online, I think because you're academician, possibly your mind goes towards online training, online education. But what I really meant, possibly I need to articulate, and all this -1s might change to +1, that are we using any web platform? So web definitely is somewhere we are. It's now become our daily life, because whether it's our family members, even if they had been doing this web communication for a while. Okay, Jayant, college has not started yet. But Jayant, would you also agree with me that for your family-based communication, when it comes to speaking to your family and sometime meeting them on a web environment, you might be using WhatsApp calls and you're using WhatsApp videos. Is it fair to say? Especially those who has said -1. Okay, so my bone of contention here is that we had been using certain technology, certain applications. We are pretty much familiar with a new environment for a while now, and that is exactly is the path we are taking towards environment. Some of you have already started with your sessions in college, and some of you are maybe familiar with some web platform. So let me know which are the web platform. I'll give an example of Zoom, and today in Geeta Ratan we are using Webinar Jam. So all of you have probably downloaded that, right? So yeah, exactly, Jayan. So that's what I meant, that you all using it, your online framework for your personal use, which is true. And some of you might be already doing a lot of online courses. So yes, I think Dr. Yusha, that's a good one. Dr. Yusha mentioned that that their children are also are using this. Okay, so you have probably okay, you are on a childcare leave. Fine. So probably some of you have seen your your children are using your online teaching. Some of you are seeing that you are using it for your own purpose. Um, Now what I'm trying to basically drive a point, that in fact today all of you who are attending have already downloaded Webinar Jam and now part of this program. So that makes us part of that world, of the virtual world. And I would like to quickly connect with me on chat and send me that which are the web platform you are using other than Webinar Jam. Quick ones from you. Please put it on the chat.
Yes, ma'am. There are answers. Zoom, Google Form for classes and short reviews. If you can see on the chart only.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm just
Yeah,
scrolling up and down.
yeah. They are saying Zoom, Google Meet, WebEx.
Zoom WebEx.
Mm,
Oh wow, Satya has written many of them.
yeah.
Zoom, Google Meet. But I can see most of you use Zoom, of course, WebEx. Yeah, Google Meet is also quite popular. Hangout is now Google Meet. Microsoft Team. Skype, okay, of course. Skype is the old one, but of course it is again getting into new normal. Fantastic. So I can really see the most popular one is Zoom, WebEx, and Google Meet. But what happens, especially most of you now that, uh, yes, Rajender ji, I am also teaching in Nepal, and they do use. Interestingly, I have sessions from tomorrow with my Nepal students, and I'm using Microsoft Team. So all of us are very cost conscious and GeoMeet. That's a new one. Thank you, Abhishek. Uppala has written Canvas Big Blue. Wow, that's amazing. That's a new one. And I'm going to ask you some question, Uppala. Be ready. YouTube Live. Yeah, that's for streaming. Definitely, definitely. Go webinar. Go to webinar. Is it go webinar, Devinder, or go to webinar? So go to meeting, go to webinar. All of these have come up. Now, why did we go through this exercise? Largely to give a, highlight to ourselves. We have already moved to that world. There would be certain areas I'm going to discuss that, while we will talk about blended learning. So, ma'am, shall we start with our slides? Sheetal
Yes,
ma'am?
sure, ma'am. Yeah, yeah, sure, ma'am. So I'm starting the presentation, ma'am.
Yeah, sure. Fantastic. So, interestingly, what we are going to do largely through our web chat platform, we're going to have some kind of a discussion around blended form of learning. And when we started the session today, I saw that today's program had been more, familiarized around virtual. So I'm just trying to reflect on the slide which Sheetal ma'am has put, and of course I followed the course curriculum for which has been designed for you. So I'm going to talk both the element in this. Before we actually start discussing about overall scenario of blended learning, I think what we're trying to do while we were sharing all this platform which you were saying, that whether you have learned through Facebook webinar, Facebook live, or maybe YouTube live, and many web platforms wherein you familiarize yourself first. So what has happened, there is a process which is called onboarding process in terms of your virtual environment. Every time you find a new um, kind of environment, it gives you that resistance. Oh, I'm so comfortable with Zoom. Now what? Why do I have to go to meeting? Then again, the new one comes, Microsoft Team. Then some of you might be getting into platform Moodle for teaching and similar learning management systems for teaching. The first thing which we actually emotion or behavior which we battle with is our own change from discomfort to comfort. Definitely, so many options are given to us right now. It surely makes us little flustered, that why do we have to use so many platforms. I'll tell you why. First of all, all of us who are faculties who are teaching in a classroom, we get very used to our classroom. We know for sure this is a college I'm entering, this is the corridor I'm going to walk, this is where I'm going to meet my friends in the staff room, this is where our director is, this is where our library is, and this is the class I go to. And of course we also see the people in our class. We look at them, we completely observe their behavior. Whereas when we look at this web environment, interestingly each one of them has its own idiosyncrasy. Some, like most of us, are very comfortable with Zoom because we can see each other. At least, if it's a 2 hours class, 3 hours class, we are all able to see each other's face reactions if the videos are on. So that way, of course, some of the platforms gives us familiarization and at least that personal touch which we suddenly miss from on ground class to online class. I think that is one huge change which has happened. Secondly, most of us are currently doing work from home, although people who have started with their classes are now moving to classroom, whereas because of social distancing norm, it is definitely fathomable that we are not able to see the entire class which we had been very very used to for years together. So why is it, suddenly I have to work in a scenario that some of us is sitting in front of me and some of are on online, maybe they are on video or not in video. And as we all know, youth is definitely different than our generation. And most of the time in the classroom, you can say that, hey guys, stop your mobile. You're not supposed to talk. Be attentive. And you actually draw attention towards you. Here in a blended environment, many times students are not demonstrating that attention towards what we are saying, and most of the time it's a monologue. Do you agree with me? So I have a poll question for you. So ma'am, can we deploy this poll? So I have published it.
Yeah, ma'am. It is there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic. So I have very interesting output. S- oh, it's still changing, so you're still responding. So if you have already responded, I'm going to end the poll. So, ma'am, I'm ending the poll. Is that fine?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Fabulous. So, very, very interesting output has come. So, my question to you was, I feel lonely when I teach my class in a web environment. 38% of you have said yes, 20% not sure, and 40% of you no. So people who have possibly moved to nice scenario that, I don't feel lonely, I'm fine with it. So possibly your familiarization are different, and your ability to possibly consider the web environment is different. The no answer can also be that some of you might not have started the class. I'm not very sure. So people who have do not feel lonely, can some of you express why? What have you done differently, which has enabled you not to feel lonely? Can I have a couple of answers on the chat?
We have few answers, ma'am. Like I have put them as red. If you scroll up, you'll find the answer.
Right. So I'm trying to go to the chat, and there's a red. Um, mm. I use teaching methodology for active learning. Beautiful, Upala. Interact with students. Students respond. Make the students interactive. Instead of one-way communication, you can interact with us. Definitely, Mudita. That's the idea. Ask question to students. Recorded my lecture. Shilpa, that's very interesting. Two-way interaction still possible in online teaching. Absolutely, Prachi. Cool. So what we're trying to say, most of us are saying that we interact with our, audience. And here I'm saying audience because most of you have students, but we can be in a training environment where your target audience. My video is not clear, or video and audio.
It is clear to us, ma'am. Maybe they have problem at their end.
Okay, fair enough. So if it happens like that, Sheetal ma'am, please let me know. Okay, so what I'll do, I will now take us to certain scenarios. First of all, I would like most of us to move to our basic, where we are talking about. Thank you, Dr. Anita. So, what we are trying to say that research has shown that we retain approximately 10% of what we see, 30 to 40% of what we see and hear, and 90% of the combination of three senses: see, hear, and do. So I think people who are comfortable and saying that no, we don't feel lonely, they're actually constantly interacting with their students, and they're doing the activities largely through either chatting, or some of you are bold enough to take the video sessions as well, because most of the people do not do video sessions because they think there would be disturbance, noise. Okay, so actually, most of the students turn off their screen that time. I felt that I'm the only one. However, if interaction will be there with students, then class will be wonderful again. Yes, Sonam, exactly that's the point I was trying to touch upon. That knowing our DNA of students who would not like to get caught if they are unattentive, right? So then what we do, we constantly interact with them and we try to get their attention towards us. That's the name of the game. I think that's where probably we are now slowly mastering. However, we also need to know that there is no one methodology of blended learning. There's so many ways we can do it. And if we experiment that, for example, we are talking currently about face to face training, and that also face to face in a given scenario of web, we are talking about looking at their faces, looking at each other, not like my current scenario where only I'm seeing my face. So probably that's where Dr. Sheetal's voice and your chats on this screen are definitely making me feel otherwise. Then we are talking about virtual classrooms. I'm going to touch upon virtual classrooms one by one, webinar, and how we use links, various links. And the good part is that we have already got very much familiar with search engines. Way back, I think even if we are from Sandwich era, in spite of that, we are all familiar with internet. We all do a lot of search. Google search is one of them, but there are various methodologies of search, and that enables us to ensure that those information which is provided. For example, why am I particularly touching links? I have a possibility right now to actually click on a link and send it to you, and you can open at your end. So what happens when I'm sending that link to you? You can open up and we all can chat together. And in fact, I use it for my training, and I ask them that, okay, I've sent you a link. Why don't you do one thing? Look for information and share with the class what you found. Interestingly, different people have different way of looking at those information from the same link, or they actually go to multiply and figure out similar information which is also around that topic. These are ways and means of using links. And then I'll come to simulation. Of course, for simulation, we all know AR, VR scenarios, particularly virtual reality, we'll discuss today. Then, of course, we can use assessment through various process. Like poll is one of the process, but assessment can be also used through documentation, meaning we can upload documents, we can use those documents for our own assessment. As I mentioned, Moodle allows you to even do online assessment, and there are many such new and old platforms coming up which enables us to do all online assessment of students. And then of course we look into one-on-one coaching. So what we are trying to do, that we are actually considering scenarios where we're talking about micro learning, e-learning, or blended learning. So we have all heard of these buzzwords, and most of the important part which we went through an exercise in the beginning of session today, that which one we think is more effective for me and for my audience. That is where we probably have the largely the quest, that what platform should I use. Like in class we use lot of methodology. We use role plays, we use videos, we use group discussion, we use lot of presentation, we give project works. All that is possible online. However, we have to familiarize ourselves to make sure that we are able to use this platform a little differently, but also for those kind of engagement. So that is what we are trying to probably understand. So what we are saying, that blended learning is a broader, more, we need to have some kind of a comprehensive approach. So what we do, we possibly can blend our total teaching environment in a scenario. I'll give you a couple of tips there. For example, we can use certain calendar management software which ensures that the attendance, the calendar, all are integrated with myself, my time, and my audience time. Then we also ensure that our work environment in a blended environment is profiled, how you want to be seen to the audience, how your persona should be visible, how your methodology or mechanism or if overall structure should be visible to people. So one tends to customize their profile, and they actually demonstrate the differentiator and ensure that audience are attracted towards those session in a different manner. Then, of course, we need to check few more logistical things to ensure that our training is effective or our teaching is effective. So, why is it the most powerful teaching and training method we use in online? So, let's see why blended learning is also linked with, the effective learning. So, to answer the question, let's first imagine that you are an individual employee or a facilitator or a trainer or a teacher or a faculty in a college, and you have identified a personal need for training. So, here we are saying, some of you said that we haven't started our class. However, we have used web platform. So, possibly you have used platform for upskilling yourself or getting yourself familiarized with certain open items which will help you to be a better informed faculty, or your ability to use the web environment would be improved version of what you're already there. So I think that's where your own personal training helps, and you then make a choice that how you are going to familiarize yourself. Right now we are actually learning from webinar or web based faculty development session. But at the same time, lot of us are using e-learning. We are pretty much using MOOCs and some formal certification we are doing. And of course, we are all also talking about certain live sessions, so which are virtual live sessions. Okay, so we are largely talking about that blended learning is a powerful enabling tool. Why we are saying that? So why we are saying that because this is not just learning by listening. So if you keep listening, after some time, possibly we all will sleep. So it's very important that we already have agreed that we need to have an interactive approach. So by mixing the traditional classroom training with online session. So in class, we always have an interaction with students. So we also try here how to make it more interactive. In fact, many times I use games. Right now, I'm not able to see you on video. Otherwise, on videos, I actually, ask people to do some even physical exercise. Okay, so that helps us to also in a given environment, even if you're constrained to sit on a chair, look at our laptop, and maybe you look at only at our notebook or maybe cell phone. But with this four logistical scenario, we still can do certain exercise. So many times a facilitator in a training uses such activity based program in the icebreaker or during the program, which is largely gamified. Okay. We are also talking about many scenario where we are considering that our audience would do self paced learning. So what we normally do, we projectize the whole environment. Like we have 2 day session, today we are meeting for 2 hours and tomorrow again for 2 hours. So in the end, I'm going to share with you activity with which we will circle back tomorrow. So what we're trying to say, there is a self-paced learning. One is based on what the instructor is directing the audience or participant or students. Another scenario is, of course, we are all familiar that during the online training sessions also, we time ourselves out. That if I have to do 34 hours program for a certain certification, then I actually look at my daily schedule and also my personal time, family time. And then I find myself that this is the window I'm going to learn and also take myself through the whole scenario of certification program. So, and I pace it myself and ensure that my pace is actually blending with my day to day environment. So that is somewhere, we actually use the whole platform differently. All right. And then we are also possibly have gone through a scenario where we have found that the our skill sets, that if we face problems, then how do we go through the problem solving scenario. Like interestingly, most of the webinars now we do since last 3 4 months, we have moved to virtual scenario. Earlier our webinar was done differently. Now what we have, frequency of webinars which is very very high. We are making choices looking at the possibly the facilitator, maybe the topic and things like that, and also the experience is also important. Now the experience is not through the content only, and also we are talking about interaction. Another experience is the overall experience because of the technology. What happens, earlier Dr. Sheetal and I interacted, that one of you said that we can't hear and we can't see. So then first I thought, is it my usage of this scenario, and then you all audience are not able to see? Is it my bandwidth? Is it there is a possibility of something happening at a facilitator end? But then we figured out that others are okay, some of you are not okay. That means some of us are having some kind of a issue, either it's with bandwidth or with my other gadgets which we are using. So what is it indicating us? it is indicating that it's not just the content and the ability to interact and engage, it is also the technology platform we use. So if we know that if I have to set up a classroom, I need a certain size of the class, I need certain furniture, I need certain, support system, like, we need a whiteboard, or a, for our presentation we need things like marker and chalks and writing boards, and many times also a lot of documents, because we use case studies and we print them out, we hand it over. All these are part and parcel of our, usage of logistics. Whereas the whole scenario changes here. So, are we also doing some kind of a learning, that if the whole activity is changing on online, which are those tools and techniques and methodologies or application I should familiarize myself, and then I can make it more beneficial for my target audience. Okay, so I'm moving to the next slide, considering the time. So certain things never change. What is it? Because of course the blended learning is never a perfect platform. um, we all like personal touch. In fact, nothing can take away the ability to look at faces, the facial reaction, the emotions, even for that matter the body language, the certain expressions, wherein we understand how the overall experience is happening. End of the day, when we actually look at our students, they are our client. So, client satisfaction, customer satisfaction, that aha moment we all look for. Okay. So, in that scenario, I'm not saying, looking at them as a client from a business point of view. I'm largely saying from the communication point of view. So, that is where I'm coming from. And okay, as already I have mentioned about that IT resources, many time our own capability helps us to take us to the scenario where we say, okay, I can navigate, I can check, I can understand how this works. Otherwise, why do we test before we actually go to the live session? We want to know whether I can look at each and every item on my screen and can use them correctly. For example, if you, any one of you who would like to reach out to me while I'm talking, you will be using that symbol of hand, and you'll click on it, and I will see that who's raising that symbol of hand. And then it makes me, it enables me as a facilitator at this particular time to connect with the person and ask question, that where have we there's a gap, you would like to know some more stuff around what we are discussing. So another thing I would say, self discipline. By now we have seen probably on our WhatsApp and lot of jokes on TikTok or any other platform, that it's presented to us with a sense of humor, but largely it drives a point that possibly, when we are working in a environment which is like work from anywhere, work from home, or somewhere we are using only, as I mentioned, a laptop and our headphones, and a given environment which is quite constrained sometime, comparing to the roomy environment we have, and we find that around us people may not be sensitive about it. So what we say, let's have some kind of a self discipline or online etiquette. So what are we saying? That we should have the laptop which is clean, which is uh, possibly enables your speed, and also the camera is fine, the audio is fine, etc. And as a speaker, it's very important that, many time I find when I do webinar, the speakers, some of them are not visible enough. And in fact, we tell them, would you switch on your mobile torch and put it to in front of your face and illuminate your face, because audience can see only a dark face, which is not a, possibly an engaging scenario. Then many of us, so lighting is important. Then we also know by now we can put up a virtual environment, because there's a huge possibility we may not have behind us the right environment in terms of wall or a screen. So we have got familiarized with virtual background, and many of us have used green screen. So green screen allows you to put the right kind of a virtual background, because if any one of you have experimented virtual background, then you might have seen that the background is okay, you're able to upload that, but when you move, your face and the environment starts looking fuzzy, and actually we say it looks like ghostly. So any one of you face that, give me a plus one. Have you changed your environment and faced a fuzzy background? Just couple of you give me plus one. If you have not, if you have changed your environment beautifully, then you can say minus one. Can I see some? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
um I'm just scrolling down.
You have to scroll up, ma'am. Like Kostab has replied +1. So we have the answers now coming up.
Actually, it is top down. But the moment I thought it is nothing is coming up, so I tried to see if I am doing something wrong. So I was getting familiar. So Medha, Saptashi, Geeta, Kaustav, all of you possibly have looked at changing virtual environment, and some of you might have already experienced the fuzzy environment. So what I'm trying to say, try to use green screen. It will enable you to give a beautiful background, and you can actually some of you talked about you record the program, so you can do recording and then play live. It will give you a very, very beautiful experience for yourself and for your target audience. Fantastic. So I now move to the scenario where we have differentiated. One of the thing which in the previous slide we also talk about is motivation. One needs to be motivated. I have seen many times in webinars and learning program and sessions, people feel very uncomfortable and they really don't want to come forward and experiment. That, typically we reflect on Steve Jobs, and we know that there are in a bell curve, there are innovators, then we have early adopters, then we have followers, then we have laggards, and some people are fixed mindset. So many times our ability to move the needle uh, can be the cause wherein we are not so comfortable. Now coming to both side, when we look at the human element part, there are certain areas like motivation, personalization, feedback, fluency and listening, relevance, discipline, all this are hugely possible. Whereas technology allows us to do create a scenario where the mobility is higher. Many global companies, in fact I have joined ITITS organization in 2000, and initially when we were interacting with US, and we actually started largely with US, but then the company I was working with, that was Hong Kong based, you might have heard about Pacific Convergence, whose banks are HSBC, and we had actually launched ISP called now.com, like Sifi you might have heard of. So we were actually enabling India with internet connectivity. Reliance was and SpectraNet were laying the cables at one of time. So most of us are using internet through modems. So modems kept us against the desktop, and it was so heavy in terms of usage, and it was so complicated. But the moment we came to the world of wi-fi's, and our entire world changed through work anywhere, I think we took it for granted, even if all of us in this today's session have gone through the whole gamut of change, whereas probably our children have taken it for granted. Nevertheless, today, if you ask each other, possibly you will not even remember when you move to a scenario where you are constantly using internet through your mobile and app and your entire. In fact, gone are those days where people had to take approval to get laptop. People actually used to show off their laptop. I have somebody, most of the people used to use desktops, and laptop was very prestigious, a premium gadget. Whereas today organization would say, please take a laptop and start working, because they really don't want a scenario where people will say, oh, I am not available after 6 p.m. because I don't have access to any such desktop or laptop, because you have not given me. So I think those constraints had been removed from our whole environment. So our mobility is largely enabling us, of course, through technology. We are more structured. We don't realize, because even our parents and our children are so familiar with applications like Uber, Ola, Swiggy, any e-commerce platform. It's a click of a button. They actually are using applications and internet and enabling themselves. Of course, lockdown constrained us, but at the same time, many things we started ordering online, which probably like groceries. So big basket, grocers, milk basket, all of them changed their stance quickly and enabled us. And most of the possibly the grocery layouts like Easy Day, etc., big bazaars, they came out with a platform so that we could quickly move to an environment through online ordering. So what is happening, our whole structure is also changing, and we are also able to track and control. Because if you would leave the class afterwards, it's very difficult to access class unless it's next class of yours. Whereas here, because of online, we are able to track many things compared to the scenario of the classroom. So we should start looking certain advantages of this. Yeah. So there are 5 ways to implement blended learning. So we are already considering face-to-face driver. Like in classroom, we already use presentations. So we can create an environment of presentation. I remember once I was traveling from a client site from Faridabad to Indirapuram. I do freelance teaching to Jaipuria, college in Indirapuram, and as my ma'am mentioned, I teach actually HR analytics there. So I could see that there was unprecedented, scenario. Suddenly, I took a route and didn't realize that there was a traffic jam, and I was just stuck there. So I called up my class and I said, guys, I'm going to take you all on Skype, and I'm WhatsApping you my today's few session. Although I'm in habit of sending my sessions beforehand through email, but that day I wanted them to go through few videos as well. So I said, put up your all of you, use your cell phone, use your smartphones rather, and get onto the class. I'm in the car, and let's start the class like that. And believe me, since students thought I'll probably not take class and they might miss out, they have to go back. But the moment we enabled through exploration of such environment, they got super excited, and touch wood, the experience was pretty good. And they went to the director and asked that, can we have more such online classes? We were like, all right, it was an exploratory one. it was not to say repeat, or there are a lot of things which we can't do from that scenario. But of course, that new experience to the students was definitely different, and it gave a delight to them. So I'm going to share some of the models which is outlined here, like face to face driver model, cell blend model, online driver model. So what we are saying here, the face to face model, it also requires technology, of course. But where does it work best? Those schools and colleges with teachers and facilitators should choose this method, who have classes filled with students having different knowledge levels and learning preferences. Not necessarily all students have to participate in online learning activities. So it is more like a presentation where you are streaming it, but people are not able to send you any feedback, any interaction. It's like using simple presentation on screen. We do that. Many time keynote speakers do that. If you look at any TEDx speakers, they do that. We do see people sitting in front of them, because of course they are given a platform. But many of us who watch TEDx speakers, our ability to go on a live chat and interact with them is definitely limited and nil. Cell blended model is also there, wherein we can actually control. So what is happening currently, Dr. Sheetal and I are able to see poll, able to see charts, able to see many things. Possibly, maybe the webinar jam was not created that way, because some of the web platform has. Okay, Dr. Divya, I'll come to your question. Give me a minute. Um, so what I'm trying to say, that when you're configuring your web platform, you can control, you can make the right choice. I'm sure most of you have used Zoom for even one-on-one interaction, and when you actually go for clicking, scheduling the meeting, then you click on whether you want it, the audio, video. You say yes to them, that we want somebody to be on video or not, and you also check or uncheck whether you want the person to join before the host or not. Do you want the video or audio to be muted when they join, it's auto muted or not, etc. So that is a structure you put in a blend, cell blended environment, and you control the whole scenario. Now, Dr. Divya, you have asked a question: how to increase student engagement in remote teaching, especially with undergraduate level students? I think one thing you can do, Dr. Divya, use whiteboard. Okay, one of whiteboard usage is one wherein you can write and talk, which keeps their distraction away, because only looking at presentation, reading text, so after some time can be boring, or it may possibly, while reading, some of the people get sleepy. So and especially when we have to motivate people to keep reading our screens, so we can keep the screen changing scenario. Like in this one, I can just click on the button and say that allow the what do you call, okay, um, sorry about that. So here is in my screen, there is something called turn whiteboard on. So I've just turned the whiteboard on. Right now the presentation is there, so you are not possibly going to see that, but the screen enables, and you can see there is all of you can see my screen, where there is in the left side lowest there are fill colors, then there is a T which is text, etc, etc. This is actually the methodology we all use in a given scenario to start interacting. And especially when you click on the color, it gives you multiple color option of the usable pen or the marker.
and you may start using those colors interchangeably, because again that distracts. Okay, it gives generates some interest. That is one way. Another is, of course, we can use lot of audio version of some used case or videos, or you can also ask them to play some games, interactive games. Okay, so that is how we actually engage our students who don't like monologues all the time. In fact, any one of you would like monologue, I wonder. Another thing which I have found, um I don't know, you may agree, uh, most of the slides I see in academia, they are very black and white. So I have a poll question for you. 1 minute. Yeah, seriously, I am wondering whether all of you have answered. Dr. Sheetal?
Yes, ma'am. I can see. So 93% are saying yes as of now,
That
which
depends.
still, yeah,
If only 5 people are answering,
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
very,
That seems to
it
be the case, ma'am.
extrapolates.
Yeah, yeah.
It totally depends how many of our audience are participating in this. See, it's changing.
Yes.
Yeah, I think people are responding. Hmm. Okay. I would end the poll here. And all right. Interestingly, 90% of you are saying that you use colors, pictures, graphs, etc. in your presentation when you teach. And some of you are not sure, 3%, and some of you say 6%. I'm glad, because my experience of many colleges, because I'm a freelance lecturer, so, and I have familiarized myself in few lecture presentations, and I found majority of them are black and white. And many times graphs, of course, loads of graphs, loads of charts, loads of various data analytics, etc. Yes, but when it comes to pictures, or especially if I go back to my slides like this, it might be for some people a useless slide. Okay, but let me tell you a fact, it's again a engager. Why? Because you get so used to seeing text and maybe some kind of graphs, etc. Suddenly when you see live people on your screen, your mind refreshes. So I could have said online classes in a different scenario, but this is a depiction when I'm trying to say, see, There are students who are sitting in front of their computer and look at this kid at the back. He's looking outside, or maybe he's trying to gain attention of the guy in red t-shirt. That things gives a lot of smile, delight, and is an engager. Okay, this 5 ways to implement blended learning could have been 5 bullet points. Why do we have this infography? Because it also enables us to look at the pictures and the text and also the highlighted points in a different manner. Okay, so what I'm trying to say, that when we all have a scenario, when we are talking about that these functionalities, when you are actually in a given environment, there is only dialogue between teacher or students. There is an online scenario, there is a small group activity even online. We are going to do that tomorrow. And there are allowing empowered in our environment when people are self learning and you are doing the facilitation through intervention. All these modalities give us different flavor of teaching. So what we are saying, there are improved conditions which are helping us, ourselves as faculties and also students, to link it with career condition. Like I said, that there is no longer new normal. We have come to a normalcy where we are work from anywhere. We are going to use social distance for a while. We are definitely going to use hybrid scenario for all the tasks we are going to do. So, in that condition, are we changing our dimension, changing our possibilities? Are we shifting gears from a certain methodology of teaching, methodology of course structuring, methodology of assessment, also doing our logistic like attendance, and also activities, etc., etc. This is a depiction of whole process. Of course, we are talking about the whole blending learning has a curriculum. So we need to also completely change our scenario, that what is it we are doing. Our whole methodology, pedagogy, everything has to now be around this new environment. All the online training, teaching possibilities has to be part and parcel of our life. Okay, so let's get little more familiar with blended learning. So what are the advantages of blended learning? So learners have immediate access to training resources. Okay, so in fact, I was listening to my life partner, my husband. He is into mice. He is into travel and tourism. MICE is meeting incentive conference events. The moment this COVID scenario happened, some of his colleagues and partners who globally travel, they all had to stop. But the first thing, because my husband is actually a technology person who moved to this world of travel and tourism. Earlier his business was into wi-fi's of hotels all over the world, and he has actually done wi-fi's of infrastructure, Singapore Metro, and many such projects. So his technology bent of mind prompted him to move his conference to virtual conference. It was amazing because he immediately did his research, spoke to worldwide virtual learning, virtual conference providers, and he started collaborating. And alongside his technology team started building a virtual platform, because lot many of them couldn't afford the kind of virtual conference cost they had to furnish, because you know what, whenever a new thing comes, it's very costly. It is not like the competition we faced in web learning, when the whole world saw that Zoom's share price was going up because everyone was using Zoom. Immediately, Microsoft changed its link. I have used Microsoft 365 link, LYNC. That changed into Microsoft Team. Hangout of Google was actually a very challenging experience. We stopped using Google Hangout. Now Google Meet is a new normal for them. Similarly, Skype realized they are the torch bearer of this whole environment, but they lost it because somebody else used this technology and actually took the market share. So what happened? Loads of players came around, and you and I started getting freebies. So we got this offers that if you use 40 minutes, you will get free. After that, you have to pay. Now, even WebEx have started to increase their cost. So ours is going to be bottom up experience, which is like no cost to now we have to pay. Whereas the conference is so sophisticated platform that it is very expensive, and a lot of new players are coming. So what am I trying to say? The virtual conference, when people are moving into the whole experience, which is similar to simulation or 3D movie or virtual reality. I would call it augmented reality. I would say simple VR. In fact, I'm going to show you a video tomorrow. I've structured that way our whole program, wherein I will take you do a walkthrough on a VR platform for you, and you will see the experience is totally different. Now, what am I saying here? That we actually get a lot of access to information like we get from search engines. Similarly, the training, online training, and also different ways of training get near to us, and we can actually explore and make a choice, etc. Yes, we can definitely take personalized training experience, because when we use different platforms, like by now we know why should we use Khan Academy, why should we use Udemy, what is it, how Udemy and Coursera are different. Let me ask a question. Do you know the difference between the courses designed for Udemy and Coursera? If you know, say plus one. Anyone responding?
Yes.
Do you know the difference of course structure of Udemy and Coursera? Okay, so Dr. Shamsher and Dr. Lalit. Okay, Upala, Jayant. Okay, I'll explain. -1. Thanks, Dr. Parul. You have got conditioned correctly. Plus one's opposite is -1. Good. I can see a good number of people are expressing they are not aware, but most of you are aware. And So what happened? Coursera cleverly or very strategically tied up with Ivy Leagues and best of institutions. So most of the certification program you'll see is powered by UPenn or University of Colorado or California, blah blah blah. So most of the great universities, even for that matter, Harvard. So the facilitators and the course material content providers are largely academicians, whereas Udemy has gone ahead and taken the whole content from the professional environment, which is largely corporates. So you will find that the content for any subject, if you compare, you'll be definitely get that experience. The all the experience, all the used case, all the information provided in Udemy are furnished by corporate and business practitioners. Got it? So such things allow us to make a choice. So Udemy is very popular with corporate people. However, whoever looks at upskilling themselves for augmenting their resume or profile, they find it very useful to actually take them through the Coursera. So I have explained that. There are many other definitely online course providers, and they have their own strategic USP, which I would encourage you to explore, understand before you even get on to any, or educate your students to use those platforms. We should be familiar of the courses and the contents and the experience before we recommend them. Okay. So we have understood the advantages and the disadvantages. Of course, it might be a risky investment. Sometimes what happens with little knowledge or by hearsay, we buy something and then later we find it very cumbersome or not the kind of stuff we want to do. So it's very, very important to familiarize ourselves to the technology environment and also understand and learn and onboard ourselves on that platform. And a very simple method is used. Use as much as possible all these videos which every organization come out with. Actually, they are putting those videos even on LinkedIn, because people, Facebook, less, not much. You can use Instagram and LinkedIn for lot of such learning experience to understand the products. Okay. And of course, when we're talking about Steve Jobs' bell curve, many of us actually still love our paper pen atmosphere. We still like the chalk and the board and maybe the marker and the whiteboard kind of environment. So I think that motivation, when I was talking about, is deterrent. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to share with you a used case. Dr. Sheetal mentioned that I am supporting SHRM as a consultant and advisor. And SHRM also, besides their content certification, advisory services, etc., they also do conferences. And when this COVID happened, quickly, they were so agile. In just week, 10 days scenario, they moved all their product to virtual. And amazingly, we found, in fact, I was part and parcel of testing online roundtable, online program. They actually invited me to the demos of how to do virtual teaching. So exciting. It was not webinar. It was, I'm pretty much familiar with webinar. All of you are familiar with webinars. It is not clicking a button and looking at few people and sharing lecture. When we are talking about virtual facilitation, it is a complete composition of usage of whiteboard, apps, activity rooms, group discussions, and also many applications which enables the whole experience in a virtual environment to be very honest much more, because suddenly you discover a thing which we may not have got in a classroom. So that is what I'm trying to say. Look at this. मैम मेरा वो थोड़ा ऊपर कर दीजिए, डॉक्टर शीतल. Yeah, thank you. So this is a virtual session I'm trying to portray to you, and this is of course for this particular session is organized in Microsoft Team, whereas they also use Adobe platform a lot. Okay, so everyone, they enable the audio video platform for their audience. And you can see simultaneously the screen is looking so easy in terms of presentation, video, chats, and also participation, interaction. And this is what I wanted to depict as a blended screen, which has lot of element which helps us to get an experience which is next level. So what do they do? They actually, for this effortless facilitation, which they have come out with for their, it is actually in a public domain. Lot of my friends from academia had joined. The first one was a free program, and this 90-minute session was so beautiful. People got super excited in terms of how to be a virtual facilitator. Now it's paid, because after they uh, did a successful complementary program, now they do 3 day session, each day 2 hours. It's a certification program, and it's probably coming up in August also, but that will be paid. Okay. So people are now learning how to be improved, and as we say, effortless facilitator, because that is somewhere, we find a lot of constraint in mind, or with gadgets, or with deliveries, actually gets smoother, and people start enjoying the virtual platform. So what does it do? There is a three part for effortless facilitation. So what do they teach? They actually teach the practical ways to have an impactful learning in a classroom program. So of course that's there's a classroom, but how do we create an impact? Then hands-on learning and designing the facilitation. Before even starting a class, one has to be very, very structured, that what all I am going to do minute by minute. Activity charter is created, and the whole classroom is designed. So that is what makes it different. So actually, they also familiarize their audience with virtual journey using app and activities, application based activities, which is activities. And it is not a rocket science, of course, using the laptops and mobile applications and etc. There are loads of apps for learning, which can be downloaded simultaneously by the facilitator and the students and the audience, and you can interact on that app. So that's the beauty of few app which have come up now. I would recommend to get familiarized. I am going to actually touch upon couple of them. So, of course, we are using polls. So, the polls, usage of polls, chats, videos, world cloud, breakout rooms, etc. Uh, World crowd is a little complicated, so I'm going to use that in also tomorrow. And of course, the whole process is to replicate the physical classroom experience. Rather, the online classroom experience becomes little superior than that. So this is what they do in effortless facilitation. It can be moved to week over week, based on projects. Once the virtual classrooms have understood, facilitators understand the all the applications and processes, then they actually go through a process themselves. There's a teach back process, which you and I are going to do tomorrow. Okay. And then they have this each session segmented into 3 sessions, each 90 minutes. So what happens in effortless facilitation program? Introduction and overview, of course, like any program should have, the agenda, etc. Learner experience simulated in a virtual platform for participation. So simulation is important. Otherwise, it becomes more monologue. And introduction to content design based on Kolb's learning theory. We all use that as a model for our teaching methodology. So, no model should be looked at only in a given environment. Whether it's Kirkpatrick's model, Cole's model, all are very good models. In fact, big time you use taxonomy, Bloom's taxonomy. All these models have been, given to us way back, and we are still using it. Now we are using it for virtual environment. Okay. So what we are saying that we actually use this facilitation model, ensuring that it reduces the talk time of the facilitator in the virtual environment. It also has a personalization technique and learner's interaction option. And there is a model called TENS, which is tone, eye contact, nod, smile, and environment. Like you might have noticed, I am using hands. That is also, earlier, if you have looked at most of the webinars, people would have a set face. They will not even move an inch, because etiquette, which we all have learned, that don't fret, don't distract people by moving too much. Of course, we shouldn't, but we should not be like robots. Even robots move, isn't it? So I think there is a possibility of ensuring eye contact. I have seen many program, and initially I myself was the culprit. I'm guilty of that. We used to use actually um, our reading notes, and we would look down and read. And can you imagine that doing that for 10 minutes, 15 minutes? Your eye contact is not there at all. We are used to, when we actually have conclaves in a college, or we have classroom lectures, where we put a lectern in front of us, put our all learning documents, and we keep on flipping papers and we keep teaching. If we replicate same thing in a in a web environment, we are looking down and reading, not even understanding how the engagement is happening. Difficult. So I think that's exactly where a lot of tools have come, where you can have screen shared, meaning the platform which you are using could be 50% of your screen, and the 50% can be your presentation, so that you're looking into the camera and talking. Does it make sense? Okay. So design the experience. So what we are saying, in the designing experience, what do? They actually use in-class facilitation tool like Sociometry, Fishbowl, World Cafe, and various such platforms. So I would rather share a couple of them. Fishbowl we do use on ground, right? Most of you might have used, because I have seen in many colleges that's being used. But you can do that Fishbowl also in a virtual environment. Okay. Then design framework for content design. So most of us, I have found, replicated the presentations shared in the classroom in a virtual environment. Whereas in classroom, the presentation on board and people in the room, the entire environment is different. When the moment we are using the same presentation, the PPT, in a virtual environment, it doesn't give the same result. So that is why designing the course material, the course logistics, the course presentation, etc., has to be relooked, reshaped, redesigned. Okay. All right, and I already talked about tech tools. I'm going to give little familiarization with a couple of them, like Hoot and all. And yeah, so we are talking about virtual facilitation. Then facilitate effortlessly. Many times I found, not now, when things were changing, and we used to watch people in a web environment, they were so stern and their expression were so serious. After some time, you'll start getting impacted, because people start thinking there is a lot of possibly over seriousness, which emanates negativity. Whereas it needs to be pleasant. The interaction between people needs to be simple, and where people can engage themselves with without getting any unnecessary anxiety. Let them actually focus on the learning, rather than the body language, rather than the voice tonality, rather than any other such possibilities which may be disengage of. So all the participant facilitates in the teach back scenario, wherein they use the learning content, take feedbacks, they actually familiarize themselves, etc., and then the wrap up happens. So this is the way they're doing it, and there is an evaluation process. They also do teach back in a certain manner. Particularly in this particular session, before and after, and gap analysis and reporting is not much possible. Then the number of hours will increase. But you and I can always use pre-course material, like sending certain assessment beforehand, collecting them back either through WhatsApp or WhatsApp group, or in an email, or in a Google Classroom, or the classroom e-classroom you use for uploading your precursors, in terms of get familiar that you are going to learn this, and you can have a quiz around that, and then they read the material, they answer your quiz, then send you back. Understanding the classroom and their knowledge base, we can always blend our program, and then the assessment helps in the end, how they have moved from their base of learning towards a new learning, and you can always measure that. If you are we also structure your course design with some scoring mechanism. All right, so I'm going to familiarize with some tools and platforms. So what we're saying, say goodbye to old school webinars and conference calls. Okay, let's start creating so Joy, you're saying each lecture period should not exceed 1 hour? Yes and no. 1 hour is acceptable time. Depends on the subject. If your subject is light, I think 1 hour is very long. If you're then possibly the environment should be more empowered environment. You can have a half hour lecture on context setting, and then next half hour interactive, and last half hour based on some activity. Okay, so there is no thumb rule. We must know how we are looking at the content, and delivery of the content, and acceptance of the content, and also it's relevant to the assessment, because many students get paranoid if your sessions are too much interactive. They start thinking, I'm not getting knowledge. How will I write in my exam? Where will I get the content to write? So for that, it's important to ensure that the balance by making it interactive, but knowledge is also important, because that will enable the audience to have huge takeaway. So many times we look at into at least 45 minutes scenario of knowledge. So even if in my presentation you might have seen some slides were blank, some slides were depicting some maybe graphical representation through a pie chart or through some kind of model, whereas some were full of text. So we need to also blend our presentation with all these possibilities. Okay. Yes, Satya. Okay. We would. So Satya is saying even the attention time is 20 minutes. How do you use that? Actually, that's the point. Satya, we are not saying attention span of people are 20 minutes after they go merry and they jump out. No. What we are trying to say that in a given environment, it can be a PPT, can be a given environment. Video can be, many people use 1 hour video. Oh my God, after some time, video can be boring too. When we are using videos, try to use people based videos, and also animation based videos, also doodle based videos. Those are different experience. So break your class structure into talk, into activity, into video, and videos also different ones, and also even project work little bit. And you can say that why don't you write down this and get back to me, things like that, like you used poll quickly. But we can also give the uh, few activities beforehand and ask them to present, and you enable some of the students whom you can possibly pick and choose, or say I got 40 updates on my course material I gave you as a precursor to join my next session, and out of that the scores are like this, and I would like the top 5 to present in the class in half an hour. So the students then can would present in the class, and you may we have seen in one of the slide how you facilitate them in terms of where they have done right, wrong, etc. Sneha, you're asking, if I have to take 40-minute session on Zoom for one topic, how do we include knowledge and activities and Q&A? Break 40-minute session, my dear. I think what I'm saying, your session, if you want to make it interactive, you want to make it, for example, you can have 10 minutes Q&A, 30 minutes you want to do session, so you would have an icebreaker of setting the tone or activity initial stage. So your 15 minutes gone out of this, so you have 25 minutes. All right, so in 25 minutes you actually have designed your PPT in a manner. You may get overwhelmed by thinking, oh my god, if I have to, each slide takes 2 minutes to explain, then if for 25 minutes I can only use 12 to 13 slides. That's possibly very less. First of all, slides should not be only bullet points and too much explanation. You can use a slide in an infographic manner. You can put multiple things on the screen. Children are very clever. While you're explaining, they will read through everything, or they may take screenshots and then start putting some notes. So actually, we can also ask them that while you are teaching, they can encourage them to take screenshots. uh, it should not be full of text. What I'm recommending, when you are aware that you have only 40 minutes of Zoom session, send them some material before and design a quiz. And actually they should not only read those, answer the quiz and send you back, and then deliberate on those quiz and say, this is where I see the gap, let me address you during the 20-minute session today, rest we'll do activities. So these are the ways and means to collectively collaboratively work with students. And that is why we are saying gone are the days where we have used one methodology of teaching. Now I will come to the next slide. This is the old scenario of VC, video conferencing. I'm sure many of you have done that. Okay. Whereas now the video conferencing have changed to online training and online learning. What is happening? This particular enabler environment is showing us multi-screen, isn't it? Very interestingly, one of the trainer, he has trained in US and multiple countries, and what he does to make it more interesting for his audience, he uses his laptop. He has a camera around him, and also a whiteboard behind him. So he actually uses the laptop camera, and which is linked with the with his camera, and he uses multiple screen and also writes on a whiteboard and talks to them. We are familiar of usage of whiteboard online, and many times we may, if we don't master the writing, we might see the writing is so abstracted and we become very uncomfortable with that. But this facilitator's program I attended, he actually uses a real whiteboard, and from the camera he's projecting that, and while he's writing, the audience is looking at it. It's a beautiful environment he has created. And this one, and if you are, some of you from engineering colleges, you would know that when the programmers work in an agile environment, or if they are doing some high-end programming, they use two screens. Okay, so laptop and a screen we have used many times. Both the screens can be used to split the screen, and you can actually use LCD, and also your television. You can link it up and actually use your television to use it with a camera and with certain scenario. I'm just familiarizing you. I had actually when I was designing this program with Dr. Ghosh, I did tell them that today, in current environment, current scenario, we might be constrained, but if we know the best practice through this session, we might someday reflect on it when slowly all this becomes part and parcel of our life. So there is another platform, which is Showtime, which enables to engage with the audience before, during, and after the program. Very, very interesting platform. Then we have something called Course Playworks for any learning style, which is self-paced learning, virtual learning, blended learning. All this is actually allows through your screen, your mobile, etc., to have a course play. Of course, we are used to this virtual classroom. Most of us are using it, and I think let's continue. However, let's be cognizant of the fact that the even virtual classroom is changing. Many new designs are coming, and the experiences are changing, which is of course the improved ones. This is a typical platform. Can we all look at it and say which platform is this? Who can guess first? Yeah? Which web platform is this? It's a simple guess. Madhura, let's clap for Rajendra Kumar Sharma. If you're clapping for Rajendra Kumar Sharma, say +1. So Rajendra Kumar Sharma ji is the first one to respond that it's Zoom. Now, by now you all know it is Zoom indeed. The difference of usage by you and me of Zoom. Thank you. No, it's not Google Meet, Dr. Parna. So let's clap for Rajendra ji, who he responded first. No, Jayant, it's not Google Meet. It is Zoom. Okay, so when we are doing +1, we are clapping for Rajendra ji, one of our participant. The reason I chose this particular one, look at the interesting environment the trainer have created. Actually, they are using Zoom and collaborating with the between trainer and trainee as a physical training platform. Can you imagine? So if they can be so innovative and they can use a simple Zoom platform for personal training and also group training, like we do gymming, they are using a web gym through Zoom. This is the kind of innovation people are doing. Okay. This is a particular one. In fact, I am going to give you the experience tomorrow. This is called virtual reality environment. So wait for that. Loads and applications are there. So I encourage you to look for those applications. And also, I would like to share 12 steps to plan for effective and engaging virtual training session. So what are we saying? Invest in stable, reliable virtual technology. Step 2, make it very energetic. become a skilled facilitators. We have seen many facilitators around us who grapple with their laptop. They keep looking at somewhere in the corner or somewhere, they keep fidgeting with the keyboard and look around. We can see that they have not practiced. That actually disengages the participant, because the participant get to know that there is no homework done. Okay, so our skill to use our own platform is very important. You can find a co-facilitator. Like, I'm already very lucky, Dr. Sheetal is my co-facilitator. If I happen to grapple or find something which is possibly issue which we have not envisaged, she can take charge, she can take over. So that is how co-facilitation is also critical. I'm not saying for teaching, because teaching normally we have our own uh, session plans, but you can always create in your amongst your student. Like, we have class representatives, and they help you out with attendance, they help you out with lot of logistical support. You can always make a choice of couple of your class reps who will help you online. Okay, then of course pick interest with the content previews. So actually, content review for self is also important. You can also do some kind of what you call review with people initially. Once you're familiar and you are you're experimenting and you're experimented, you have done created your prototype, you are comfortable, of course you can go live. But try to actually experiment and find like this picture, it depicts that there is a presentation. At the same time, this presenter is using whiteboard as well. Okay, decide between live and pre-recorded. uh, there is no harm recording your some of you actually said that, that if you do pre-recorded one and actually play it, if it gets stuck, if something goes wrong, then you can always play it. And the best part, you are at ease. If you do recording beforehand, you play it and you can keep interacting with your students, like polls and chats and all that. You can help them navigate. Okay, of course, there can be technical difficulties. Ensure, like before this session, I went around in my house and told everyone, please, guys, don't download anything. Don't use heavy, stuff in your mobile, because my husband, my son, everyone keeps doing something or other. And if they do that simultaneously, my session actually faces the problem. So I've actually requested them to, not to do this during 5 to 7, and they gave me a thumbs up. I'm sure I have to help them out too. So it's a barter system, but I'm making sure that our experience is better. So actually, taking the technology on your side. Okay, um, of course, the rest of the point I expect you have read. I request Sheetal ma'am to play the video.
Yes, ma'am, doing that.
Thank you.
In this video, you're going to see how I use Zoom, which is my favorite video conferencing software ever. I use it for one-to-one client meetings. I use it for client groups, so groups of up to 50 people if you have the basic Zoom plan. And I also do it for online workshops. If you want to buy the upgrade to the Zoom plan, you can have, let's say, 100 people on a webinar, or 500 or 1,000 or even more. So let's get started by first launching Zoom. And in this video, I'll also show you how I do the breakout groups on Zoom. Okay, so when you launch Zoom, it looks like this, and you notice that there are these buttons down here. If you click on meetings, you'll be able to see what your upcoming meetings are. I've got several that are scheduled and several that are recurring. The one that's up here, that's his personal meeting ID, this is sort of like your default meeting room in Zoom. And by the way, please don't copy that number down. This is my own personal one. But usually this is unchecked. And if this is unchecked, okay, typically that's how it works. If you click on Start with Video, there I am. Okay, like yeah, I actually have a couple of people waiting for me on a Zoom call, which you're going to meet them soon. But if you click on Start with Video and you don't have this one checked, that means it's going to start a new Zoom room each time you do this, or start without video. That's the other option you can do it. Join means that you're going to join a particular meeting ID that you know about, or schedule means that you're able to schedule it. And so, for example, if I want to schedule a specific meeting, then you could set the date and time, set how long it's going to be, and it's going to give you a unique meeting ID after you schedule it. Let me show you a couple of these options. Video when joining a meeting should be on or off. I recommend that you keep these both on. That's what I found to have the best results, because when the video is on by default, people come into the meeting, and people who aren't used to that might initially be a little bit surprised by it, but I find that they get used to it pretty quickly because they see you on video and they say, oh, this is normal to see the other person on video, I'm seeing on video, so that makes sense. If you make it off, then I find that it's harder to you know, encourage people to turn on their videos. So that's what I recommend, having both of these. Audio options allow people to join both by phone or by computer. That means both is there. And then don't require meeting password. I don't recommend that, because unless it's a really, if you have a new meeting that you create with a unique meeting ID by clicking on schedule, nobody has that meeting ID anywhere on the internet except for you and whoever you share it with. So I don't see the reason for having a meeting password unless a particular meeting room that you schedule as a recurring thing has gotten out there and you don't want random people showing up. That's the only reason I think meeting password. Enable join before host is a really useful a checkbox to have. It's when you have a client group or a group of people that already know each other, and it's kind of like you allow them to enter the conference room before you as the host shows up. They're able to talk among themselves, see each other first. When to uncheck this is if you're doing some professional presentation and people who are going to show up to see your presentation don't know each other, and it'll be awkward for them if they suddenly see each other before the host is there. So that's the time you don't want them to be able to get into the meeting before you join. If you uncheck the box, what they're going to see is they're going to see that the host has yet to join the meeting. Please stand by. And then they're going to see that on the screen, and they can do other things on their computer. And then when you show up, then the meeting will start. Okay, and record the meeting automatically, locally or in the cloud. It's up to you. I like to press the record button when I'm ready, so I typically have this unchecked. And the recurring meeting, and use personal meeting ID means that meeting, even though you scheduled it, will be using your own personal ID instead of the unique one that they are going to generate randomly. The recurring meeting option I like a lot because I have a client group that always meets in this, on a regular basis. So if you have a regular group of people you meet with on Zoom, do a recurring meeting and then schedule it. Schedule the recurring, even though it's recurring and doesn't have a particular time. It can happen 24/7, anytime that this meeting room is available, especially if enable join before host, then anybody can come in who has the link. And then you click schedule, and what's going to happen is once you click schedule, it'll open up your Google Calendar if you have that, and you can scroll down and basically select all and then copy it and send that to somebody via email. Now, if somehow you lose that and you want to get that back, you click on meetings and you scroll down to where the recurring meeting that you scheduled was, and you click copy. And once you click copy, you will then be able to go to an email address or a document, and if you paste it in, it has that in there again. So that's what that copy function is. The edit means that you'll be able to edit the parameters of that meeting, just like we showed you earlier. Oops, open that up again. Okay, and then of course delete is if you want to delete that meeting ID. This is the meeting ID right there. If someone is asking you for a Zoom meeting ID, that's the one that you want to look for and copy. And for some reason, if you don't have it, you can always copy it.
Okay. So I just wanted to share this particular video with you, and you could see how it makes you so familiar with certain tools, and it allows you to to self learning. So I would rather encourage you to go through the link yourself, and ensure. I will actually share this link with Shital ma'am, and she in turn can share the link with you. Particularly, since we have played the some part of the video, my intent was to actually highlight. I'm sure you all know, but highlight that when we are not comfortable or not familiar with something, there are a lot of people who are empathetic about it, and they understand. They've possibly themselves gone through it. Like typically, I remember when I started my research journey, and I'm a social media person, so I tweeted that I have enrolled myself in a PhD program, but I'm so worried that I don't know how to write a thesis. So how am I going to embark upon this new journey? You won't believe there were people from all over the world who wrote back, and retweeted and engaged with my conversation, that don't worry, we were also in the same journey. If and some people wrote, now I'm an author, but I started my journey as you, and look at me now, I'm writing books. And many people said, I still don't know how to do it, but still I managed to go through my entire PhD program. Don't worry, you will pass through. The point I'm trying to make, sometimes we feel very embarrassed, very guilty about not knowing something which is coming in front of us as new element. Believe me, there are loads of them around us who have gone through the same stuff. So how do we make the difference? Only learner in us, somebody who's curious, somebody who'd like to actually move from unknown to known world. They explore, and Google helped us to explore, we ensure that for us, for our parents, for our next generation, all generation, we are accessing information in a jiffy. Earlier the syntaxes were so difficult. People used to look at loads and loads and loads of information, then they used to get answers. Now people are so smart, they use right syntax to even search. Same stuff is going to happen in our new environment or virtual scenario. Today some of us are not comfortable, some of us are familiar but not so savvy, or we may not have the right grip, but it's just a matter of time. So let's start exploring more, and I'll stop here. We have around 10 minutes. Please ask questions. Yes. Uh, some
Yeah.
part of my presentation was there, which Dr. Sheetal ma'am, I'm going to use
Yes, ma'am.
tomorrow, because I want you to actually put up the presentation and take us to this last slide, because I'm going to request our participant to do an activity.
Okay, ma'am.
Absolutely, in the end, yeah. This will I'll cover tomorrow. This I'll cover tomorrow. Yeah.
This is
So activity for tomorrow is I need volunteers who can, of course, if you are participating from same college, you can do a group activity together, or or you can individually do, and we can pick up few of you to present to us with examples, with few possibilities. My question to you is that how would you make your class more interactive? So if some of you can say that I would like to present, I have an experience and I would like to present it to the this session. We will structure it for you tomorrow in terms of timing. So either if you are already ready with your answer, you can put it on chat, and Dr. Sheetal will collate your initiative as volunteer for tomorrow. Or you can always WhatsApp Dr. Sheetal, and I will know how many of you have volunteered for tomorrow's session, wherein you would be presenting how uh, you would like to do a virtual class, or you're already taking virtual class. Would you like to share your volunteerism now, or you want to do later? Dr. Sheetal, will you connect
We
with
are
the audience? Because
the
we
audience
have,
can tell us can tell us right now also,
yeah, I
or
think that would be
yeah,
great, because at least
yeah.
I will know how to structure tomorrow's timing.
Ma'am,
Let's start.
can you
Yeah.
allow Mr. Subhas Chandani wants to join face to face? Can we allow him?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
please.
Yeah, I am allowing him.
Sure, sure. I was not sure who's asking that question.
This side, Professor Anuj Ghosh.
Yeah. We will spend more time for interaction tomorrow, but most important part that we would like to, if you are not volunteering, then I'm going to actually pick up names from the list.
it's
Which one
like
would you prefer?
participating, yeah, yeah. Only participating students can make big, great teachers. So you have to start participating, and many of you are already participating through chat, and we will not be asking you anything more to do. Kindly give your name as a volunteers.
मैम, मैंने कहा
Okay.
था ना,
Yeah.
स्टूडेंट्स नहीं देते हैं, वॉलंटियर नहीं
Yeah.
करते, यहाँ देखिए
Yeah.
फैकल्टीज नहीं कर रहे हैं.
Faculty also, yeah. Faculty is also reluctant to give their names, huh? Yeah.
मोनोलॉग पसंद है आपको?
Yeah.
वैसे तो
Least
इतना सारा फीडबैक दिया कि सेशन बहुत अच्छा था. अब तो मेरे को टेक अवे है कि आपको सेशन पसंद नहीं आया, तभी आप कल के लिए वॉलंटियर नहीं बन रहे. तो एक काम करते हैं डॉक्टर शीतल, आई थिंक प्लीज सेंड me the list. I will create groups and they will present in a group with a group leader.
all right, ma'am.
तो मुझे लिस्ट ऑफ पार्टिसिपेंट दे दीजिए, बिकॉज आई वाज नॉट श्योर हाउ मेनी विल बी देयर, otherwise I would have
Mm,
structured that beforehand.
right, ma'am.
So let's have the list of participants. Please send me today after this session, and with their college and details, of course, so that I know the background of each professor. So I don't need email or contact detail. I only need their name and what are their job title and their organization. So I'll create a group, and tomorrow they will be, and in fact tonight we will mail. आप email कर पाएंगे ना सबको?
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
तो हम उनके ग्रुप्स बना के उनको भेज देंगे. Let their group leader present tomorrow, and we will also tell how many presentation will be there. Is that fair?
Right. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Sounds to me, yeah. Yeah.
तो अभी हम प्रेजेंटेशन हटा देते हैं
Mm.
और
Okay, ma'am.
हम फेस टू फेस क्वेश्चंस ले लेते हैं नेक्स्ट 4-5 minutes.
There's one question coming from Shilpa. She is saying that she does not have any experience of taking classes online. So, what is your take on that, ma'am?
Interesting. So what we say, I'm recalling there's a lady named Leena Nair. She's CHRO of Unilever. And I actually was listening to her. Interestingly, I was in Scotland and I just happened to go to Facebook Live, and I saw she was in a conference and she was sharing a very, very interesting point. She said that if you really want to know whether you are innovative, whether you're agile, if you are open to change, every day do one thing new. So रोज एक नया काम करना है. तो वो रोज एक नया काम करने के लिए शिल्पा कल आप एक सेशन लीजिए, ट्राई करिए. वी विल मेक ग्रुप, लेकिन आप उसको लीड करिए एंड देखिए. एंड जो टीच बैक सेशंस होते हैं ना, it is not for evaluating where we are doing wrong. It is largely to evaluate how we have moved from base to some other point. हम जहां पर हैं वहां से आगे कैसे बढ़े हैं. That is where you should measure yourself.
Uh, so, as you can see, ma'am, question like Shilpa again is writing that activities we use so far are typical to real-time teaching.
हाँ, तो उसको कैसे हम ऑनलाइन में कन्वर्ट करें. तो सी व्हाट ऑल कैन बी डन. जो इस आज जो मैंने सेशन में एक्टिविटीज बताया, दैट कैसी कौन कौन सी ऐसी चीजें हैं जो हम एक इंटरैक्टिव क्लास में कर सकते हैं, वो आपको थोड़ा सा डिजाइन में करना होगा. और द बक स्टार्ट्स नाउ. इफ यू विल नॉट डू नाउ, पॉसिबली नेक्स्ट चांस, मुझे नहीं मालूम, शायद आपका सिनेरियो इन कॉलेज और समवेयर will probably enable you, but here is a chance for you to experiment, because we are in this 2-day session in an exploratory environment. We are trying to learn. We are saying that we would like to be more familiar with virtual learning. So experiment kahan kar sakte hain? Yahi kar sakte hain. So let's start. Shilpa, take the initiative. You can possibly, if you know other participants, you can request them to be part of your group, and so that you're familiar with them, take their help. And one thing we can do, Sheetal ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
is it possible that we on WhatsApp take the consent that how many of them have used online activity based virtual program. We can, जब हम ग्रुप बना रहे हैं तो उनमें उनको हम डिप्लॉय कर सकते हैं, ताकि ग्रुप में ऐसा ना हो कि कुछ ग्रुप बन जाए जिसने कभी भी नहीं किया और ग्रुप ऐसे बन जाए जो बहुत एक्टिव है. तो वी कैन ऑल्सो एलोकेट पीपल. आर यू ऑल
Ma'am,
गेम फॉर दैट?
uh, as of us, like we are not operating through WhatsApp, ma'am. We will be able to do it only on emails.
ईमेल
So
बहुत
we have
कमरसम हो जाएगा.
yeah.
डॉक्टर अनीता जैन भी कह रही है, आई हैव नॉट स्टार्टेड ऑनलाइन क्लासेस येट.
Yeah.
तो अनीता, वुड यू लाइक टू वॉलंटियर? आई मीन, डू यू वांट टू एक्सपेरिमेंट टुमारो?
We have got the live participant, ma'am, now. Dr. Rajesh Pingavel has joined. So he would like to have a face-to-face question.
Okay,
Hmm.
fine.
Yes, sir, you can go ahead.
Hello, ma'am. It is the chance is for me, myself, Dr. Rajesh.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, madam, myself, Dr. Rajesh Pengavel from Kerala.
Yes.
I'm teaching MBA classes.
Okay.
So I found two things. I'm having two queries. One, when we talk about MBA courses, MBA classes, we largely take the class in an interactive mode, very interactive mode. Maybe we'll ask questions, we'll conduct some activities, maybe a role play or a case study analysis in the class to make the concept very clear to the students. So yeah, it is actually a student-oriented classes we are taking, not the faculty-led, but the student-led classes. How it is possible in a virtual platform? Second question, when we talk about virtual classroom, the many time what we are facing is the students will come and join the program and they will keep either the sound mute or the video mute, and we don't know whether they are physically present over there or not. Now what the excuse they are saying is, sir, the bandwidth will be more, we are going to take more data when we are going to keep it our video on or our speaker on. So we will definitely attend the class, but we are keeping it mute. So what could be the challenges in that, and how we can make it more interactive and more collaborative, so that the faculty is taking too much pain and strain. I found for last 2 months of teaching online, it is having more pain as compared to classroom teaching. So how we can make it more collaborative, more interactive, again, like in the case of student-led classrooms.
So, good question, both of them. I attempted to familiarize ourselves today. First of all, we are still having a mindset that the online classroom and offline classrooms are similar. Maybe not with you, most of us have that. The designing of our session is most important part. I've shown slide, and there was a question also on the chat wherein I mentioned the design. Typically the ADDIE method we use, the instruction designing, that how to now completely change our methodology of teaching. So I mentioned that when you are doing a collaborative program for MBA students, and I do that also. Like I have students in Nepal, and the classes are starting tomorrow. So my session details would go beforehand. So it's not the course curriculum only. Expectation setting in terms of class. So we already have given to our students that session by session, this is what I am going to do. Now in that design part itself, we put that how we are going to do the project work, how we are going to expect them to do presentations, how we are going to do certain activities. So that is where the expectation setting is done, point number one, so that they know it's more collaborated, it's not monologue. And we are expected to do performance, and our everyday assessment is happening based on our classroom performance. So when you are doing assessment, you distribute it in a manner which is not purely based on their answer sheets. Classroom participation, normally we keep in a conventional scenario 25% of, and another 25% maybe on projects, etc. Now we have to redesign that assessment participation percentage. We need to create that accountability of students in a classroom. So we would enable our course curriculum by designing it that when you are in a class, attendance of course has a criteria. We put 10% for attendance, right? So
Yeah.
similarly, classroom interaction would entail this score. Then you will find majority of the students are interacting since they know that there is a daily assessment happening. Third is of course submission timeline, that if they are submitting their project work or quizzes or activities before the class, then you give them near 100% based on performance. If they are giving you all the such outputs after the class, straight away deduct 50%.
Right.
That you did not give it to me in a stipulated time. How do you expect me to review and do gap analysis and take the session with you with the familiarity, because you have not given me the pre session output. So there are such mechanism which will enable you to redesign and reshape your classes.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Welcome. So we have
Correct.
overshot by 8 minutes. So do we want
Yeah.
to take today the questions, or we want tomorrow?
We can schedule that from tomorrow, ma'am. I believe there is one Dr. Amrita who is saying that, hi, I am Dr. Amrita. So, ma'am, I think she is trying to volunteer for tomorrow.
Okay.
Dr. Amrita, if you want to volunteer for tomorrow, you can be, we can take your name. Okay. So, ma'am, shall we end our session here only?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much, ma'am. We are all, taking the baby steps towards the virtual based teaching. And I hope, like everybody has started to walk, have, later on started to run. So all of us will, gather up our courage and, start to run up and join that race. In the meanwhile, ma'am, we have got another participant who has joined. So we would like to take that question as well.
I'm fine,
Yes,
provided all
yeah,
participants don't find
yeah,
it that we have
yeah.
overshot time. You're not
Yeah.
managing time.
So it's like, the technology is taking little more time. So Mr. Subhash has joined. So, Mr. Subhash, kindly introduce yourself and you can raise your question. Mr.
I
Subhash, are you in a position to hear me?
I think he has left.
Okay,
Ma'am.
yes, left, yes. Right, ma'am, then we'll continue with the questions tomorrow. Uh, and Dr. Anita, we can share the details of ma'am tomorrow while she'll be conducting her session, right? So thank you so much, ma'am. We'll continue with our journey tomorrow. And good night. Good night, all the participants. See you tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, bye.